The street was crowded, the sound of hurried footsteps blending with the incessant honking of cars, the city pulsing with the rhythm of daily life. But for Alex Okoro, the billionaire entrepreneur and tech mogul, everything stopped the moment his eyes locked onto her. Standing on the corner, beneath the faded awning of a small makeshift stall, was Emma. The girl he had loved years ago, the girl who had been the pulse of his heart since high school. He hadn't seen her in nearly a decade. Yet, despite the years that had passed, there she was, looking like a ghost of his past. Her hands worked skillfully, threading a delicate necklace made of silver and beads, but it wasn't the jewelry that caught his attention. It was the way her eyes flickered up to meet his, the hesitation, the surprise, and then the mask of indifference that quickly took over. Emma, the girl he had once promised to come back for, was now standing on a busy street, selling handmade jewelry to the passers-by. His pulse quickened, and for a moment, everything around him disappeared. The laughter of a child, the distant sirens, even the sharp voices of street vendors, everything faded as the memory of their last day together flooded his mind. Alex had promised her the world. A life of luxury. A future where their love would flourish. But life had pulled them apart, and his dreams of a future with her slipped away like sand through his fingers. What happened to her? He took a step toward her, unsure whether to call her name, to speak the words that were on the tip of his tongue. But before he could take another step, a man in a dirty jacket walked up to Emma's stall. The stranger was tall, with a scruffy beard and unkempt hair. He leaned in too close, his voice low and threatening. Alex didn't think, he reacted. His feet moved faster than his brain could catch up, and before he knew it, he was standing in front of the man, his arm outstretched to block the man's advances. "Hey! Back off," Alex commanded, his voice deep and authoritative. The stranger looked up, his eyes narrowing at the sight of Alex's sharp suit and confident stance. "Who do you think you are?" the man sneered, stepping back and raising his hands in mock surrender. "Just trying to make a living, man." Not by intimidating her, Alex shot back, his voice colder now, more controlled. Emma was standing behind the stall, her hands trembling as she watched the exchange. She hadn't moved. She hadn't even made a sound. Alex's gaze flickered toward her for a split second, and in that moment, he saw the pain in her eyes, the same pain he had left behind all those years ago. The stranger muttered something under his breath, his eyes scanning Alex's expensive clothing, before he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Alex stood there, heart racing, his mind racing faster. The adrenaline of the confrontation was still pumping through him, but it was the sight of Emma that held him in place. "Emma," he finally managed. His voice soft, like a plea. Her name felt foreign in his mouth, like something he hadn't said in years, something he had forgotten how to say. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she adjusted the strands of beads on her table, as if they were the most important thing in the world, her back to him as she continued her task with practiced precision. The silence between them was thick with unspoken words. He knew this wasn't going to be easy. He hadn't expected it to be. But the years of wondering, of missing her, had built up too much inside him. He wasn't about to walk away. "Emma," he said again, this time with more force. "What the hell happened to you? Why are you?" She cut him off before he could finish. "Don't," she said, her voice sharp, her back still turned to him. "You don't get to ask me that." Alex was taken aback, the words stinging more than he'd expected. He opened his mouth to respond but closed it again, unsure of what to say next. Emma finally turned, her eyes meeting his. There was no joy in her gaze, no warmth, just a deep well of pain that Alex couldn't ignore. She swallowed hard before speaking again. "You're not welcome here, Alex. You don't get to show up after all these years and act like you care." Her voice was low, but there was no mistaking the hurt in it. He was taken aback by her words, and for a moment, he didn't know what to say. He wanted to explain, to tell her everything, to apologize for abandoning her, for not fighting for their love. But the words were stuck in his throat. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said instead, the words more honest than he had intended. "I never wanted to leave you." Her eyes flickered, just for a second, and then she looked away. "You did. You left. And now you think you can just walk back into my life because you feel guilty." It felt like a slap in the face, and for the first time in a long time, Alex felt vulnerable. He had built an empire, become a man of power, a force to be reckoned with. But standing here, with Emma staring at him with such raw pain, he felt smaller than ever. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, the words carrying the weight of years of regret. "I know I can't undo the past, but I can try to make it right." Her expression softened for a fraction of a second, before hardening again. "You don't get to make things right, Alex. You had your chance." Alex stood there, grappling with the enormity of what he had lost. His mind raced, he couldn't leave, not now, not when he finally found her again. "What if I told you I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it up to you?" he asked, his voice desperate now. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. But I can't walk away without knowing if there's a chance." Emma's gaze met his, her expression unreadable. For a moment, the world around them fell away, the noise of the city fading into silence. "Fine," she said, her voice colder than he had ever heard it. "But don't think for 1 second I'll make it easy. For you. I don't need you. And I definitely don't need your money." Her words stung, but Alex didn't flinch. He wasn't here to buy her forgiveness. He was here to prove something, both to her and to himself. "Then I'll prove it," he said firmly. "I'll show you that I can be the man you deserve." Emma didn't reply. She simply turned back to her stall, her hands working furiously, as if pretending he wasn't standing there. But Alex wasn't going anywhere. Emma slammed the door shut behind her and leaned against it, her heart thundering in her chest. The air inside her small apartment felt heavier than usual, suffocating. She stared into the dim light of the single bulb swinging slightly overhead, trying to steady her breath. Outside, she had held her ground. She'd stood tall, stared Alex in the face, and told him he didn't belong in her life. But now, in the quiet of her room, she wasn't so sure. She rubbed her arms as if trying to wipe away the sudden chill that gripped her. Memories clawed at her, of simpler days, of whispered promises beneath mango trees, of Alex laughing, brushing dirt off his jeans after falling from his bike just to impress her. And then, the day he left. "Don't think about it," she muttered to herself. But it was too late. He was back now. Rich. Handsome. Confident. And worse, he still made her heart race. She walked toward her tiny kitchen to boil water for tea, needing something to ground her. As she reached for the kettle, a sharp knock pounded at her door. She froze. Another knock. Louder. She set the kettle down and moved slowly toward the door. "Emma," a deep voice called. Her stomach dropped. It wasn't Alex. It was a voice she hadn't heard in years, but one she could never forget. She unlocked the door cautiously and opened it just a crack. Standing in the hallway, shadowed under the flickering light, was Toba, a man whose presence had once been a storm in her life. "Long time, Emma," he said, a wicked grin curling across his lips. Her breath caught in her throat. What are you doing here?" He pushed the door open slightly farther, stepping into the threshold like he owned the place. His eyes scanned her tiny living space with disdain. "You've done well for yourself," he said sarcastically. "Selling beads on the roadside. Classy." Emma gritted her teeth. "Leave. I have nothing to say to you." "Funny," he said, leaning against the wall. "Because I've got plenty to say to you." She stepped back instinctively, her mind racing. Why now? Why after all these years? Toba's face darkened. "You think you can run forever? You owe people, Emma. You disappeared and thought your problems would vanish with you. I paid my debt, she hissed. Twice over. And you know it. Debt? He laughed coldly. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about promises. Loyalty. And people who don't forget. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Toba turned just in time to see Alex stepping into view. His suit jacket was off, his sleeves rolled up, and his jaw set like stone. Is there a problem here? Alex asked, voice calm but dangerous. Toba scoffed. And who the hell are you? Alex didn't answer. He stepped forward, placing himself between Emma and Toba without hesitation. You need to leave, Alex said, low and firm. Look at this one, Toba sneered. Big man playing hero. You think your money makes you brave? No, Alex replied, eyes burning. My fists do. Toba's smirk faded. The hallway felt tighter, charged with potential violence. Last chance, Alex said. Walk away. For a moment, it looked like Toba might lunge. But then he gave a mocking bow. This isn't over, Emma. Not by a long shot. With a final glare, he turned and stalked off into the shadows. Emma let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Alex turned to her. Are you okay? She nodded, though her voice caught. Why did you come back? Alex hesitated. Because I still love you. And I'm not going to let anyone hurt you again. She stared at him, speechless, a war of emotions raging inside her. Anger. Confusion. Hope. But most of all, fear. Because part of her wanted to believe him. And that part terrified her the most. Emma's hands trembled as she held the envelope, her fingers gripping the paper like it might slip away and vanish, taking the fear with it. Alex stood beside her, his eyes locked on the note that had only 5 chilling words written on the back of a photograph. He can't protect you forever. The picture was grainy but unmistakable. It was a photo of them, standing outside her apartment the night before. Alex, confronting Toba. Emma, behind him. Someone had been watching. Someone had taken that photo. And left it at her doorstep. Emma's stomach twisted. Her thoughts blurred. Alex gently took the photo from her fingers and studied it. His jaw tightened, and his voice dropped to a cold whisper. They were watching us. Emma's knees went weak, and she stumbled backward. Alex caught her by the elbow, steadying her. This isn't just about me, she whispered. They're trying to drag you in. I didn't want this, Alex. I didn't want you here for this. I don't care what they want, he said. You're not alone anymore. But Emma wasn't convinced. She stepped back, eyes filled with panic and guilt. No, Alex. You don't understand. These people, Toba and whoever he's working with, they don't play games. You showing up here again, it makes everything worse. For both of us. I don't care what they threaten, Alex snapped. I'm not going anywhere. The door creaked slightly in the wind behind them, as if echoing her hesitation. She looked up at him, her voice cracking. Why are you doing this? After all this time? You left, Alex. You never came back. And now, after all I've survived, you show up when the past comes crawling again. Alex was silent for a moment, the photo crumpled slightly in his hand. I left because I thought I was doing the right thing, he said finally. I thought I had to become something before I could be someone for you. But I got everything, money, power, status, and none of it meant a thing because I didn't have you. Emma looked away, biting her lip. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But survival had taught her not to trust sweet words, especially when spoken under pressure. We need to go to the police, Alex added. Emma laughed bitterly. You think the police can help? Some of them are in on it. The reason I disappeared, the reason I started over, was because I realized no one could save me. Not the system. Not family. Not even you. Alex stepped closer. Try me this time. She searched his eyes for doubt. There was none. Not this time. But before she could speak, her phone buzzed violently in her back pocket. Emma pulled it out slowly. A blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice crackled through the line. You should have stayed in the shadows, Emma. He's made it worse for you. Now we're watching both of you. Click. The call ended. Emma stared at the screen, her breath shallow. Alex took the phone from her hand and stared at it, fury burning in his chest. That's it. We're leaving. You're not safe here. She blinked. Leave. Go where? My house. I have security, cameras, guards, you'll be safe. Emma wanted to refuse. Pride welled up like a shield in her chest. But then she remembered the eyes watching her, the voice on the phone, and the photo. She swallowed. Okay, she whispered. Alex nodded. Get whatever you need. I'll wait outside. She moved quickly through the apartment, grabbing a small bag, but her eyes scanned the space she had called home. The little apartment that had seen her cry, laugh, create, heal, and now it was no longer safe. 10 minutes later, they were in Alex's black SUV, the city flashing past them in silence. She watched him from the corner of her eye. One hand on the wheel, the other resting on his thigh, muscles tense, jaw locked. Protective. Focused. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel safe. But only for a moment. Because deep down, she knew this was just the beginning. The past wasn't done with her. And it would take more than love to survive what was coming next. The tall iron gates slid open slowly, revealing a driveway lined with manicured hedges and soft garden lights flickering to life. Alex's house, no, his fortress, loomed ahead, grand and modern with floor-to-ceiling windows, polished stone walls, and the kind of silence money buys. Emma sat in the passenger seat, her small travel bag clutched tightly in her lap. She couldn't stop staring at the house as the SUV rolled forward. This is where you live? She asked, her voice barely audible. It's home, Alex replied without pride or excitement. Just fact. Or at least, it's where I sleep. He parked, stepped out, and walked around to her side. Before she could open the door, he already had it. That small gesture, once charming, now felt too intimate. She hesitated but stepped out anyway. Inside, the house smelled like leather, citrus, and something cold. The lights were dimmed as though the space itself didn't want to be too welcoming. Everything was glass, chrome, and muted tones. It was immaculate. Impenetrable. And yet, Emma felt exposed. Security is tight, Alex said as he keyed in a code beside the door. 4 cameras outside, 2 inside. I have guards on call. This place is safe, Emma. She nodded. Safe. Physically, maybe. Emotionally? Not even close. Alex led her through the house and showed her to the guest room. It was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed looked like something out of a hotel catalog, too perfect to sleep in. Make yourself at home. If you need anything, I'll be down the hall. Emma dropped her bag and turned to him. Why are you doing this, really? Alex leaned against the doorframe. You know why. No, I don't. You vanished. You made your choice, and it wasn't me. And now you're risking everything to protect me from people you don't even understand. I'm not risking everything, he said quietly. You are everything. Emma's heart faltered. She looked away, blinking fast. Don't say things like that. I'll stop when it stops being true. For a moment, silence sat between them, thick and unfinished. Alex turned and left without another word. Emma stood by the massive window in the guest room, wrapped in a blanket, watching the security lights flicker outside. The city lights glowed in the distance, but this place felt removed, isolated. She couldn't sleep. Her mind kept looping through the call, the envelope, the face of Toba, and Alex's eyes when he said he still loved her. She turned at the soft knock on the door. Emma? Alex's voice. She opened it. He stood there in a plain t-shirt and sweatpants, holding 2 mugs of tea. Didn't think either of us would sleep much. She took the mug. Thanks. They sat on the couch in the guest suite, the tension between them softer now, more like a whisper than a wall. I never asked, he began, what really happened. Back then. Emma stared into her tea. You remember when my brother got arrested? Alex nodded slowly. Drugs? He didn't just get arrested. He got caught working for someone powerful. Dangerous. Toba was his handler, I guess. When my brother tried to get out, they came after me. Said I owed them for his debt. I was 17. Alex's grip tightened on the mug. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd make sure my brother disappeared in prison. So I did what I had to. Worked for them. Delivered packages. Kept quiet. Then one day, I ran. Alex was silent, burning with guilt and helplessness. I never told you because I didn't want you involved. I knew you had dreams. I didn't want to drag you into my nightmare. Alex's voice was hoarse. You weren't a burden. You were my dream. Emma shook her head. And you were my escape. But people like me don't get escapes, Alex. We survive. He reached out slowly, gently resting his hand over hers. Then let me help you live. Not survive. Live. She looked up at him, and for the first time in years, she let the wall crack, just a little. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I, he said. And for the first time, they sat in silence that didn't hurt. The following morning broke in silence. No gunshots. No phone calls. No strangers at the door. But Emma still woke up with her heart pounding, the weight of the night's conversations and memories wrapped around her chest like a second skin. She sat up in the large guest bed, the sheets tangled around her legs. Outside, soft sunlight poured in through the tall windows, filtering through sheer curtains. For a moment it was almost peaceful. Until she noticed something odd. The window, one she knew had been closed, was slightly ajar. She got up slowly, her bare feet touching the cool hardwood floor. She moved toward the window and peered out. The garden below looked undisturbed. No sign of forced entry, no footprints in the dew-covered grass. But it still didn't feel right. She closed the window, locked it, and pulled the curtains shut. Something was off. She could feel it in her bones. Downstairs. Alex was already awake, in the kitchen, stirring a pot of fresh coffee. His face was calm, but his mind was elsewhere, scrolling through security footage on his phone. When Emma entered, his eyes met hers instantly. You okay? He asked. She hesitated. The window in my room, it was open. He froze. I didn't open it, she added. And I checked it before going to bed. I'm sure of it. Alex didn't wait for another word. He set his mug down, tapped into the security system, and scanned the feed from the previous night. Nothing shows entry, he said. No motion alerts near your room. The system's silent. Emma folded her arms, uneasy. So someone came in and out without tripping a single alarm? Alex looked at her, tension tightening his jaw. Or they were already inside. Later that day, Alex called a meeting with his private security firm. Two men arrived, clean-cut, alert, and already on edge. "There's no way someone got inside without tripping the system," one of them said. "Unless it was an inside job. Or someone bypassed the grid manually." "Reset the codes," Alex ordered. "Sweep the house top to bottom. Every camera, every wire. I want answers." Emma sat in the corner of the room, arms around her knees, watching it all unfold. She felt like a ghost, present, but out of place. One of the guards approached her later. "Ma'am, have you noticed anything unusual missing from your belongings?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. My necklace. Just a cheap beaded one. I made it myself." "When did you last see it?" "Before I went to bed last night. It was on the nightstand." Alex stepped closer. "So someone came into your room and took something? Something personal?" She nodded again, this time with more fear in her eyes. "It wasn't about stealing. It was a message." Nightfall. The mansion felt different that evening, bigger, quieter. Too quiet. The staff had left early. The security team was posted around the perimeter. But inside, it was just Emma and Alex again. He insisted she sleep in the master bedroom that night, while he stayed downstairs on the couch with a weapon beside him. Emma stood in the doorway of the luxurious room, staring at the unfamiliar bed. "Do you really think they're inside?" she whispered. "I think they've been one step ahead for too long," Alex replied. "And I think whatever they're planning, it's just getting started." Emma didn't argue. She just lay down and pulled the covers tight. Midnight. Emma awoke with a start. Not from a sound, but from a feeling. Someone was watching her. She sat up in bed, heart pounding, eyes adjusting to the dark. The moonlight streamed in through the window, illuminating the corner of the room. There. A small object on the floor. She slipped out of bed and moved toward it. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. It was her necklace. The one that had gone missing. She looked toward the door. It was still locked from the inside. Which meant whoever left it had come in, and left again, without being seen. Downstairs, Alex jolted upright to the sound of Emma's scream. He grabbed his weapon and sprinted upstairs. She met him in the hallway, pale, holding the necklace like it was a curse. "They're inside," she whispered. "They never left." And this time, she wasn't just scared. She was ready. The necklace hung in Emma's trembling hand like a cursed object. Alex examined the lock on the door again, intact. No scratches. No signs of forced entry. And yet, the necklace, her necklace, had been returned. Silently. Mockingly. The bedroom security camera, positioned just outside in the hallway, had captured nothing. "It's like they're playing with us," Alex muttered, jaw tight. Emma stared at the necklace. "No. They're not playing. They're warning." The next morning. Neither of them had slept. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, staring at the necklace now sitting on the nightstand. "I'm tired of hiding," she said quietly. Alex looked up. "You're not hiding. You're recovering." "No," her voice was firmer now. "I've been hiding since the day I ran from Toba. Changing names, moving cities, living in fear. This," she held up the necklace, "this is a message. And I've heard it before." Alex walked over, crouched in front of her. "Then what do you want to do?" Emma's eyes locked onto his. "Fight back." Later that day, Emma and Alex sat across from a trusted private investigator, Tund, a former police officer with a reputation for discretion and results. Emma recounted everything, the threats, Toba, her brother's arrest, the work she had been forced into years ago. Every painful Detail. Tund listened quietly, scribbling notes. When she finished, he looked up. You're saying Toba was part of a trafficking and extortion network? Emma nodded. I was the bait. I delivered, carried, even scouted. But I was never part of it willingly. I was 17. I was just trying to keep my brother alive. Tund leaned forward. And now someone's trying to pull you back in. Alex added, we believe someone planted themselves in the house. Maybe a staff member. Security tech. We don't know who we can trust anymore. Tund nodded slowly. Then we don't trust anyone. I'll start digging, but this kind of network doesn't just disappear. If Toba's still active, he's not working alone. That evening, Emma sat alone in the guest room, digging through her old travel bag, hoping to find something, anything, from her former life that might help. She paused as her fingers brushed over an envelope, yellowed and torn. She pulled it out, heart slowing. It was a letter, from her brother. She had forgotten about it, buried deep in survival mode. Emma opened it slowly, her eyes scanning the trembling handwriting. Emma. If you find this, it means I failed to keep you safe. They used me. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't. Toba isn't the leader. He's the gatekeeper. The real threat is someone bigger. Someone with money, politicians, police. I hope you run far and never look back. I'm sorry. Her breath caught in her throat. Toba wasn't the head. He was just the doorman. And she'd walked straight back into the building. Emma rushed into Alex's study with the letter. It's not just Toba. He's working for someone else. My brother knew it. Before Alex could respond, a soft buzz vibrated across his desk, an untraceable number again. Alex put the call on speaker. The voice was smooth this time. Calculated. Well. She's remembering. That's unfortunate. Let's hope she forgets again. Because if she doesn't, next time, we won't just leave a necklace. We'll leave blood. Click. Silence fell in the room. Emma looked at Alex. No more fear. Just fire. I'm not forgetting, she said. And I'm not running. Alex nodded, stepping beside her. Then we're going to burn them down. The next morning arrived with heavy skies and the scent of rain in the air. Even the weather felt like a warning. Emma stood at the balcony of the guest room, wrapped in a long shawl, watching clouds gather over the city. Her mind buzzed, not with fear anymore, but focus. Toba wasn't the mastermind. Someone bigger, wealthier, and more protected was behind all of it. And she was done staying quiet. Later that morning, Emma and Alex arrived at the office of Tund, the private investigator. His office was tucked into an old building on the edge of Victoria Island. It looked unassuming, but Tund had built his reputation on keeping things quiet, and getting things done. He sat behind his desk with a worn folder in front of him. I pulled some threads, he said, sliding it across the desk. Your brother wasn't lying. Toba's just one piece. Emma flipped through the pages. Grainy photos. Transaction records. A list of names. Then she saw it, Senator Idris Bakr. A man who once campaigned as the voice of the people. The same man whose security firm was subcontracted by police units across Lagos. Emma felt like the room tilted under her. I know that name, she whispered. He visited my school. He handed out scholarships. Tund nodded grimly. And behind the cameras, he ran everything from trafficking to political blackmail. He uses men like Toba to collect favors. Deliver messages. Silence people. Alex leaned in. What does he want with Emma now? She's a witness, Tund said. And she's alive. That evening, Back at the mansion, Emma sat across from Alex in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a glass of water. "We can't keep reacting," she said. "We need to draw them out." Alex looked at her carefully. "You're thinking like them." "No," she said. "I'm thinking like someone who knows what fear smells like. And I'm done breathing it." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pin drive. "What's that?" Alex asked. "A copy of the letter. And the list of names Tun found. I want to leak it." Alex straightened. "That could get you killed." Emma looked him dead in the eyes. "Then let them come." That night, they used a burner laptop and anonymous server to upload the files. No names. No trace. Just evidence. They sent it to 2 journalists, one in Abuja, another overseas. And then they waited. Every hour that passed without retaliation felt like a countdown. 2 days later, around midnight, the security team caught someone trying to bypass the outer perimeter of the mansion. Armed. Alone. Silent. Emma and Alex were jolted from sleep. The intruder was taken down non-lethally, but not before he whispered something to the guard. She broke the silence. "Now he'll burn her whole world down." Alex watched from the window as they dragged the man away. But Emma didn't flinch. "I told you," she said. "We woke them up." The next morning, Alex stood on the patio, phone to his ear. His contact from within the National Intelligence Bureau had one line of advice. "Tell her to run. Now. Bakir doesn't forgive. He erases." Alex hung up. Emma joined him outside, sipping tea like she hadn't just put a political titan in her crosshairs. "They're coming, aren't they?" she asked. "Yes. Then we hit first." The sun rose the next day behind thick clouds, casting a grey pallor over Lagos. It had been less than 24 hours since the hitman was captured and his chilling message delivered. She broke the silence. Now he'll burn her whole world down. Alex stood at the edge of the balcony, staring out over the quiet street, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. He hadn't told Emma yet what the agent from the National Intelligence Bureau had warned. Bakir doesn't threaten. He buries. Behind him, Emma emerged from the guest room fully dressed, a calm fire in her eyes. "No more hiding," she said, already tying her scarf. "I want them to see me." Emma sat under the harsh studio lights of an independent media house, the kind of news outlet too small to be bought, too bold to be bullied. The journalist sat across from her, recorder on, pen poised. "You're ready?" he asked. Emma nodded. "I'm not here to hide anymore," she began. "I was 17 when I became a tool in a game I didn't understand. They used me. Threatened my family. Took everything. But now, I'm not afraid of them." She laid out the truth, how she'd been used by Toba, how Bakir's web had extended into schools, police, and charity programs. She named the names. Described the operations. And then she did something no one expected. She showed her face. No alias. No distortion. Just Emma. The interview aired within hours. By nightfall, the video had gone viral across Nigeria. The comments were split, some called her a liar, others called her a hero. But everyone was talking. That same night, Bakir released a statement denying everything. Polished. Strategic. Full of deep concern for the accusations. But Emma had been ready. She released the scanned letter from her brother. The beaded necklace, mailed to a reporter. A list of names cross-referenced with police records. Verified. Bakir went from respected senator to national ? In under 48 hours. Around 2 a.m., the mansion's lights went dark. Power failure. Or, something worse. The backup generator kicked in, but Alex's security system buzzed with alerts. Unusual activity at the west perimeter. He grabbed his firearm. Emma was already awake, alert, calm. Alex looked at her. We need to move. They exited through the hidden garage tunnel and into a second vehicle parked underground, part of Alex's backup escape plan. Where are we going? Emma asked. Somewhere they can't buy, Alex said. And someone they can't bribe. The car disappeared into the night, but the war had just begun. On Emma's phone, another message blinked through from an anonymous number. This isn't a game, Emma. You don't know who you're playing with. She smiled for the first time that day. I don't play. I finish. The night was still, but Emma could feel the storm brewing. The mansion was quiet, too quiet. Despite all the precautions, the creeping danger still loomed over them. Alex had said it best. We've made ourselves targets. But if they want war, we're ready. Emma had come to realize that there would be no running from this. No more hiding. No more waiting for someone else to protect her. If she was going to survive, if they were going to end this, she would have to step into the light. The next morning, Alex set up a meeting with Tund, the private investigator, to discuss their next move. The information they had gathered was enough to topple Becaire, but it had also made them a prime target. I don't need to tell you what's at stake, Alex said, his voice calm but resolute. We've got the evidence, we've got the people, and now we need the leverage to bring this bastard down. Tund leaned forward, eyes scanning the array of documents spread out on the table. I've been working my connections, Tund said quietly. But Becaire's web is deep. His reach is farther than you think. He controls people in every corner, politicians, police, businessmen. Emma listened, a sinking feeling growing in her chest. We expose him, she said, her voice steady. We get him on the record. We force him to react. Tund nodded. You're asking for a war, Emma. Becaire doesn't just vanish. He doesn't lose. I'm not going anywhere, she replied, a steel edge in her tone. Alex glanced at her, impressed by her resolve. Later that evening, Alex and Emma set their plan into motion. They planned to release the full extent of the evidence, financial records, illegal transactions, and photographs, exposing Becaire's criminal empire. But they weren't stopping there. Alex's contacts in the press had already set up interviews. They were going public, with Emma as the key witness. It was their last, bold chance. As they sat in Alex's office, reviewing the documents one last time, Emma's phone buzzed. A single message appeared on her screen. You've made a mistake. You've made yourself a target. Don't forget, Emma, we always win. She swallowed, but her resolve didn't falter. They've been watching us the whole time, she said, showing Alex the message. He gripped the edge of the desk. And now they'll come for us. Emma stood, a cold smile curling on her lips. Let them come. I'm ready. The press conference was set. Emma was ready to step into the spotlight, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid. Alex stood by her side, his presence solid, like a fortress. The cameras flashed as Emma stepped to the podium, her heart steady. For all the noise, the rumors, the threats, this was her moment. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't running. My name is Emma Adedeji, she said, her voice calm and clear. I've been silenced for too long. But today, I speak the truth. She laid out the facts, everything she had learned about Becaire's network, everything he had done to her family, to the people of Nigeria. The truth flowed from her like a tide. The room was silent as she spoke, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone. Hours later, Emma and Alex stood in the empty hall of the mansion, watching the news unfold on the television. Becaire's name was being dragged through the mud, his empire crumbling. The evidence was too overwhelming to ignore. The doorbell rang. Alex was already moving before Emma could ask what was going on. He came back into the room, his face grim. It's him. Becare's people. The final showdown was coming. They both knew that once the doors opened, there would be no going back. They had made their stand. Now they had to finish it. Emma took a deep breath, turning to Alex. Let's end this, she said. The door opened, and the men walked in, men who had once served Becare without question. Emma and Alex were ready. This was the moment that would determine everything. Becare's done, Emma said, her voice calm and unwavering. One of the men stepped forward, but Alex's hand shot out, stopping him. Not just Becare, Alex said. It's the whole network. With that, the battle lines were drawn. This was no longer about survival. It was about taking back control. And when the dust settled, they would be the ones standing. The room was tense, the air thick with uncertainty. Emma and Alex stood side by side, facing the men who had come in Becare's name. Their faces were cold, unreadable, but Emma could see the glint of fear in their eyes. They weren't here just to intimidate, they were here to end it. But Emma wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Alex's hand hovered just above the gun in his holster, his body coiled like a spring ready to snap. The men in front of them could feel the tension, and they hesitated, unsure of how to move next. You've come to silence me, Emma said, her voice calm but firm. But I've already spoken. You can't undo what's been said. And neither can Becare. One of the men, the leader, stepped forward with a sneer on his face. You think this is over? He asked, his voice low and menacing. Becare doesn't go down easily. He'll tear you apart, just like he's torn everyone else. Becare isn't in charge anymore, Alex responded, his tone steely. We've got everything we need. And once the world knows, you and your boss are finished. Emma stepped forward, her eyes locking with the man's. You can try to silence me, but you'll be too late. You've lost. We're the ones in control now. The leader's eyes flickered, and for a brief moment, Emma saw doubt in them. He knew they were on the brink of losing everything. And then, without warning, the man lunged toward Alex. But Alex was faster. He grabbed the man by the arm, twisting him around and slamming him against the wall, his gun pointed at the man's chest in an instant. The other two men moved toward Emma, but she wasn't backing down. She grabbed a chair nearby, swinging it with precision. The force of the blow knocked one man off balance, and Emma didn't hesitate to kick him to the ground. With the other man on the floor, she turned back to Alex. It's time. Alex nodded, securing the leader's arms behind him. We take them to the authorities. They'll give us the leverage we need. The authorities moved in quickly, arresting the men and taking them away. But Emma knew that Becare wasn't going to let this go easily. His entire empire was crumbling, and he would do whatever it took to stop her. The media circus erupted as the news of Becare's downfall spread. Emma's face was everywhere. The footage of her speaking out, her name cleared, was broadcast to millions. But Emma was far from comfortable with the fame. As she watched the news coverage, she felt a weight on her chest. The victory was bittersweet. She had exposed the truth, but the fight wasn't over. There would be more enemies. More battles. She turned to Alex, who had been watching the news with her. You've done it, Emma, he said, his voice soft but proud. She shook her head, her expression hardening. This isn't done. Becare will come for me. He'll come for both of us. He's not someone you defeat with one blow. Alex stepped closer to her, resting his hand on her shoulder. But you've already taken back control. And you've shown the world who he really is. The rest of the world will see him for what he is now. Emma nodded slowly. She had broken the silence. Now, she just had to stay one step ahead of the chaos that was sure to follow. That evening, after the news had settled and the authorities had begun their investigation into Becare's network, Emma and Alex found themselves standing in front of the mansion, the night air cool and filled with promise. "Where do we go from here?" Alex asked, his voice calm. Emma looked out into the distance, where the city lights shimmered in the night. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know one thing. I'm not afraid anymore." Alex smiled, a rare moment of tenderness. "You're not alone in this." She turned to him, her face softening. "I know. And that's all I need." As they stood there, looking out over the city that had once been a place of fear and uncertainty, Emma felt something new, a sense of peace. She had fought back. She had won. And for the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. The storm had passed, but Emma knew this was just the beginning of a new fight. But now, she was ready. The months that followed the downfall of Senator Becare were marked by an undeniable shift in the political landscape. Emma's name became a symbol of resistance, not just in Nigeria, but across the world. The video of her speaking out, of exposing the truth, had reverberated far beyond the city, sparking movements, protests, and calls for accountability in every corner of the nation. But in the quiet corners of the mansion where Emma and Alex now lived, the chaos of the outside world felt distant. Emma sat on the balcony, sipping her coffee as the sun rose over Lagos. The city was alive, busy, bustling, and full of potential. But for her, the past was no longer a heavy shadow. It was a part of her story, but not her definition. She had learned to fight. Not just with words, but with the strength she never knew she had. And as she stared out at the horizon, she realized the battle hadn't just been for justice. It had been for herself. Alex joined her outside, his footsteps soft against the marble floor. He had spent the morning reviewing reports, more calls from government officials. Again, companies offering lucrative partnerships. But for now, none of that mattered. He sat beside her, offering her a warm smile. "We've come a long way," he said quietly. She nodded, her gaze unwavering from the city below. "And we've only just begun." Alex's eyes softened. He had been there through it all. From the first day he saw her on the street, to the harrowing battles with Becare's men, to the final public confrontation. And now, Emma was no longer the woman who ran in the shadows. She was a force of her own. "You're right," he said, resting his hand on hers. "There's still work to be done. But today, we breathe." Emma smiled, a rare softness lighting up her features. "Today, we do. And tomorrow, we keep moving forward." The news of Becare's arrest continued to make headlines for weeks, but behind the scenes, Emma and Alex began a new chapter. Alex's business ventures were expanding, but he found himself focusing more on the causes Emma cared about. Human rights, reform, and justice. Together, they began to build a foundation that would serve as a platform for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Emma, on the other hand, became a speaker, an advocate, and a voice for those who had been silenced. She worked with local and international organizations, using her platform to shine a light on injustice and corruption wherever it existed. But most importantly, Emma and Alex had become partners, not just in business, but in life. They had each other, and together, they knew they could face whatever came next. The storm was over, but the winds of change were just beginning to blow. And Emma was ready for it. One evening, as they walked through the garden of the mansion, Emma turned to Alex, her heart light with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. "Do you remember the first time we met?" she asked, her voice soft. He smiled. "How could I forget?" She laughed, the sound like music to his ears. "I was so scared, so lost. I didn't think I could ever be the person I am now." "And look at you," Alex replied. "Stronger than you've ever been." Emma looked out at the horizon once more, the orange sun dipping beneath the skyline. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said quietly. And that's everything. Together, They stood in the silence of the garden, knowing that no matter what tomorrow brought, they had already overcome the darkest of times. Their future was unwritten, but for the first time, Emma knew it was hers to shape. And the world, finally, was listening. Thanks for watching.